Thought I'd give a little tour of my freeze dryer. I'm in the process of making some homemade MSG powder. I've got onions in there now. So this is the unit here, and this is the vacuum pump. I have a little floor desk fan sitting there, and when that thing's operating, I leave it on, and that fan keeps that motor about 15 degrees cooler. I put a infrared thermometer on it, and it came in around 110 back here on the actual motor part. And after I put that fan on it, it brings it down below 100 somewhere, maybe 95-ish, I think it'll just make the pump last longer. So here's what it's showing right here. This is, I've got sliced onions as one of the ingredients for the powder, and it's the cycle is complete. I don't know if you can see what that says right there, but it says process is complete, open drain valve to vent, and then I have I can either do defrost, more dry time, or no defrost. I'm gonna hit defrost. It turns the unit off. So right now it's got the freezer working, because once this process completes, if you're not home, it just goes into freeze mode and keeps it under frozen and vacuum. So I'm going to reach back here and open up the drain valve. You can hear it. And if you ever decide to get one, you don't want to just open that thing up full blast and let it suck air back in. That's not good for the cylinder. Let it seep out really slow, and then undo but it's not going to open until all that air flows out. And the next step, and I'm not going to do this for you guys, I would drain my oil. I'll pull this out and pull out my my filter, which is a Brita water filter, and I've got it set up with a roll of Scott toilet paper, and that roll, you take the regular filter out and stick that in there, and then that will filter your oil. And then you pour this into a mason jar, put it in the freezer, and then the water will settle and freeze at the bottom, and then you pour your oil off the top of it, and then you pour it back in your handy dandy vacuum pump oil container and just keep recycling it. And so there's a little petcock drain under there, and this is where you fill the oil. It takes about 2 minutes to fill it. It's no big deal. I fill it every single cycle to make sure this pump lasts a long time. I just had to replace a main seal in this thing, and so I'm waiting for that to totally air out, and we'll take a peek at what's in there. My onions should be good and done. Oh, I forgot to hit continue. Now it's going to put a timer on it to defrost. So what happens is when the process goes through sublimation, totally frozen food, and then it heats it up under vacuum, it goes straight to vapor, skips the liquid phase. Then that vapor condensates on the inside of the cylinder and collects on it as ice. So it just basically transfers the ice out of the food straight to the side of the tank, and it needs to be defrosted in order to be ready for the next cycle. There, well, it just popped open. All right, that's just all right. So, ooh, that's cold. So those things, I don't know if you can hear them, very crunchy. All right, I'm gonna take all 4 of these trays out, take them around and process them. All right, now I brought my onions into the kitchen, and I'll process this on my kitchen island. First of all, if you're gonna work with mason jars and you're gonna do vacuum packing, you gotta get one of these. I call it my metal scorpion. Looks kind of like a scorpion, but here's what it does. You put it on your lid, and easily, did you hear that? That's vacuum packed with oxygen absorbers. I'm gonna put one in the bottom where I'm gonna store my onions, and then I'm gonna go ahead and seal this right back up. So I've got that going in the Vac-Master 380. I think that's a brand that Jack had recommended. This is my $5 Vitamix. If you were at the last workshop last year where I made butter, I bought this at an estate sale for $5. Can't hardly beat that. So we're going to take our onions and put it in here and grind it up, turn it into powder and put it in here. All right, I got to get my utensils here. So I usually use, I don't see it, where is it? Here we go. I use a pizza cutter or a dough cutter, and I usually, whatever food I'm using, I usually use this to kind of pick it up, but I may not have to do that, but I'm just gonna dump the onions right in there. You can see how dry they are from freeze drying. This recipe for homemade MSG is coming from a YouTube video that Jack sent me. It's from Guga of Guga Foods. He cooks a lot of meat. He also has a YouTube channel called Sous Vide Everything, and I do a lot of sous vide. And anyway, under his Guga Food channel, he said he decided he was going to try making some homemade MSG powder out of about 8 different types of vegetables: tomatoes, onions, mushrooms, some other stuff. So I'm just making each individual ingredient. I'm gonna freeze dry it, because what he did is he dehydrated it. Dehydrating is good, but Jack just thought, well, man, you got to freeze dry. This might even be better for it. So, all right, so let's make our first batch of onion powder. Put it on low. And Guga actually said leave the onion skin on it. It gives it more flavor. So I did. I took the outer layer off, but left the rest of it. All right, let's see what we got here. Yeah, a little smoky. All right, so I'm gonna take my little server spoon or server, and got a little funnel here, and that's 1 tray's worth right there. As you can see, it's about 1/4. It's probably might just fill it up. So let me move this stuff out of the way and get my next tray going here. Another thing is, when you get ready to process your food, take it out of your freeze dryer, probably a good idea to process it as soon as possible, because right now those onions are absorbing some of the moisture in the air. If I were to leave these on the counter for a couple hours and come back, they'd be all mushy and would not be good at all. I learned that the hard way. My very first test run was with apple slices. Turned out great. I left them laying right here on this counter, and I ate a few of them. So, oh man, this is awesome. Came back by a couple hours later and grabbed a slice and put it in my mouth. I felt like I put a piece of wet sponge in my mouth. It was terrible. As a matter of fact, that's the tomato powder I made last week. And this is tomatillo powder. Wow, it's going to be probably more than a quart jar. I'm going to see if I can press some of the air out. It is pressing down a bit. Okay, so I got full jar, got it all in there. Of onion powder. I'm gonna put my accessory for my Fact Master. That'll suck it down, get all the air out, and then I'll go to my next vegetable on the list. Alright guys, I am doing my next phase of MSG, homemade powder, so I can trigger Brian Young in the group. And there's 3 trays worth there. So I'm gonna load these puppies in the freeze dryer. And I've got a package of baby bellas, which are the darker ones, and a couple packages. These are the baby bellas. So that should give me plenty of mushroom powder for the 8 different ingredients. So we're going to put cover on the freeze dryer, lock it in, and then you got to go back here and close the valve. I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's see. And defrost is done. We're going to start the unit, continue, because the valve drain is closed, and it is freezing. That'll freeze for about 9 hours, somewhere 30 to 70 below. Now I'm going to change the oil in my unit. I'm not going to show you that, but anyway, more MSG ingredients.